So this evening we will be starting in our favourite called banana pose. So lie down. It can be a little tricky to use the block behind the head, but not impossible if that feels good. We're basically going to lie down on the floor, take our arms above. We're going to take hold of one wrist, take a little bend into the top of the body, and then we'll walk the legs out to the same side so we get a nice banana curve. We're trying to keep both the shoulders and both the hips flat to the floor. So it's a pretty easy pose to get into. Do allow yourself to have your knees high, hands behind, chin towards the chest as you walk yourself down into the ground. And once you arrive, allow yourself to lengthen your legs out down the center line of the mat. Take the hands up towards the sky as you wriggle out through the shoulders and the back of the hips, and try and get already your lower back a little closer to the ground. Let it sink in a little. We'll take hold of the left wrist with the right hand and drop the arms down behind us and try and get them flat to the ground. And then we'll shimmy the shoulders over to the right so we get a nice stretch down the left side of the body. And as you arrive, you're going to slowly walk both feet out towards the right side as well. Hence a little shape of banana. And we're trying to relax the shoulders down. Now, as you come into this, you'll kind of find your edge. And the edge is where your body starts to tighten up. So we want to be towards that place, but not so close to it that we can't breathe, or the muscles are so tight that they really don't ever get a chance to relax. But we also want them to be doing something. So allow yourself to get the hips nice and flat to the floor, wriggle around. Same with the shoulders, try and get both shoulder blades flat to the floor. Turn the head in as well, and then join in. Soften the jaw. Now, some people like to cross legs in this, in which case we would be crossing the leg left over right. But for some, if you have a history of sciatic issues or issues with your SI or particularly tight IT bands, you might find that crossing the legs over is no good option. It just might tilt you over the edge. So try to show discernment when you're in these poses and let yourself relax in. Sometimes less is more. And with yin practice, we're not even worried about whether we align side by side in these poses. It could look different left to right quite happily. It can look different from week to week, depending on what we're carrying in our bodies. Tension, injuries, history. Release gently back into the center. That will likes to come with us as well. Keep the arms in the same place unless they've gone a little bit tingly on you. And then if you have had to reach them out a little bit, once they come back, take the hands back overhead. This time we're going to use the left hand to hold that right wrist and shimmy the shoulders to the left. And then once you feel comfortable, we'll do the same with the legs. And ideally, the feet will be together. The legs are pretty relaxed. We're just letting the legs roll around and find their own place. The feet are relaxed as well. And that breath nice and soft and even. And those arms relax down into the floor. Try and let the lower back sink into the ground. Start to bring the arms and the shoulders back onto the center line. Bring the legs in gently back to the center. As you bring your arms back over the top towards your hips, allow yourself to slide your heels in towards you gently. Give yourself a little hug. And then roll gently onto whichever side you prefer to lift from. I mean, ideally the right side, but yeah, if that doesn't work for you, the left side's okay as well. We're going to come up to sitting up and we're going to come straight into Sphinx pose. So I'm going to lie down, belly down, and I'm going to allow myself to have feet a little wider than I think my hips are, but I'm really going to look back and check. Let the heels roll out a little bit, so just kind of loosening into the thighs. This evening, I'm just going to interlace the fingers, tuck the little finger underneath. Try and bring my elbows shoulder distance apart and underneath directly of the shoulders. And then let the belly and lower back sink. The head position really is personal choice. So there is a point of discussion about whether you let the head drop or not, and how that stretches out the neck muscles. If you spend a lot of time with the head sort of leaning forwards, you might find that if you take it into a more extreme lean, that it will start to feel like it's releasing those neck muscles, because they are going to be tight whether you hold yourself up or whether you lean forwards through the head. Do try and let the shoulders relax and the chest sort of sink down between, which as a result kind of pushes my shoulder blades together naturally a little bit. Allow ourselves to gently come into a half frog pose. So first of all, just wiggle with my toes, feet to the center line until they touch. Take the elbows out wide and just turn the palms down so I can rest my chin on the back of my hands. Let myself relax into the floor a little bit, wriggling around and adjusting the shoulders and length of the neck. And then I'm going to slowly take that right knee out to where I think is 90 degrees to the body, and allow the shin to follow line and mat. I'm going to turn the head in the same direction. I'll be here for about 2.5 minutes, just resting. Now, there's a stretch into that groin, and it will dig into the outer hip a little bit, into that socket. Muscles may or may not be used to moving in this direction quite so acutely. So sometimes we can get a little bit of cramp. You can shake that out if it happens. You don't have to sit there and grit your teeth through it. It'll be a nice experience. And see if you can come back in. Otherwise, we're trying to let the hips roll down towards the ground as flat as it can. Different bodies, different shaped hips, different sockets. We're going to find the angle and our leg hangs out to the side is going to be different body to body. And possibly this is one of those ones where side to side will be different as well. In to slide that heel back in towards the thigh, into the leg back so the legs come back side by side. Wriggle out through the hips again. Just a few seconds there to reset. And when you're ready in your own time, slide the opposite leg out to where you think is 90 degrees. Shin running down the line of the mat, toes pointing out, turning the head gently in that direction again. You probably find that on this second side you can almost immediately settle a little deeper if the shoulders start to relax a little more. here, we're going to bring that heel back into the mat, towards the thigh, slide the leg back down, side by side. We're going to move gently into child's pose. So roll yourself onto whichever side, draw your knees in, and use your hands to press down. So this is least impactful on your spine as it can be. And then we're going to take the knees wide so that we can sit down onto the heels and let the body kind of sink between the thighs. Taking the hands out roughly shoulder distance apart. Take a couple of breaths there, just let yourself settle in. And then in your own time, let the head look towards the hands and take them out towards the right side, shoulder distance apart. So begin to rest on that inner thigh. And breathe down the long side of your body, much as you did in the banana pose. Try and let the shoulders relax out wide. You want the arms far enough forward so the elbows are away from the ground, but not stretching so much that it feels like the deltoids and the latissimus dorsal muscle are getting a big stretch. They want to be relaxed so you can breathe easily into this. We'll lift up towards the hands, ease our way into a second side. Lift the head, look towards the hands, bring them back into the center, and use my hands to slowly walk my body back up. I'm going to come to lie on my spine again. I'm going to use the bolster and the block this time. I leave a fair amount of room out to the sides as well. It will become really obvious very shortly. So I'm going to take the bolster, put that onto my right side, and put the block towards the back of the mat. I'll lift up, knees high, chin towards the chest, and support with the hands. Roll the spine gently down to the floor. Now, the first thing I want to do is make sure that the block is under the head, not pressing into the neck or the shoulders. I'm going to take the arms out wide, have the feet together. I'm going to shimmy my hips over towards the left, as far as I comfortably can. So I'll take a couple of little stabs at that. I'm going to lengthen the right leg out down the center line of the mat and bring my left foot on top of the right thigh and roll the knee over and see if I can bring my bolster to lie underneath the knee and the ankle joint, running down the line of the shin. I'm going to use one hand to help rest on there as well. I want to try to do my best to get my shoulders flat to the floor in this position. And this knee that's coming out to the side, I'd say that was more or less 90 degrees to the body, similar to the angles we've used before. And if it feels comfortable, you can turn the head to look to that outstretched arm on the left side. And that eyes and the head look towards the ceiling. And we just breathe. It's as easy as that. Now that bottom leg is still pretty much straight. It's rolled over, really bend, and just stay where it was. Now I'm going to pay a little bit of attention to see how important this bolster is. So am I barely touching it and therefore needing to use a little bit of arm weight to bring it down? Or am I able to rotate a lot further over and still keep the shoulders flat to the ground? Some people can drop their inner thigh more into the center line than others as well, so that can be a contributing factor to see where we eventually end up. We'll release out of this shortly. A couple more breaths here. And maybe the legs, so roll gently back. Bring the foot back. Moving towards the bottom, shin yourself back into the center line. It's probably easiest to just lengthen your legs out and use your hands to roll the bolster back over to the other side. And then bring the feet back in towards your body. Arms out in line with the chest. So it's quite low there. If your hands are up here, sort of in line with the top of your head, you're scrunching your shoulders up a bit more than you need to. So it's a little bit lower than the shoulders. The feet come in and we shimmy over to the right as far as we comfortably can, lengthening out the left leg. And then we bring the right foot up on top of the thigh and roll it over. And again, we're just trying to find that place. So you can kind of play around with where the bolster sits underneath you. See how that feels in the spine. It might creak and clunk a little bit as you come into it. And try and keep those shoulders flat to the floor. Again, you can look out to hand out to the side if that feels comfortable. Now, the shape of the ribs are different from side to side, and you possibly in your lifetime have noticed that one side of your rib cage looks a bit different to the other. And that carries all the way around into the back of the ribs as well. Actually got one lung that's slightly bigger than the other in pretty much everybody in the world. So when you breathe in, you'll notice a bit of a difference when we're kind of rotated and sitting on those ribs. Maybe it feels a little bit more difficult to breathe in, or it feels a little tighter, or you just notice the pressure, the contact a bit more. So let's let ourselves release again. Bring those heels in. Shimmy it to the center line. Move that bolster right down to the front end of the mat. Use my legs to push it out of the way. Pick that up later on. And I bring the heels back in towards the bottom, the arms out wide. I'm going to shimmy as far as I comfortably can to the left. The legs roll over to the right. This time I'm going to slowly extend the top leg out and lengthen the bottom leg down the center line of the mat, so keeping it in line with the spine. And then I'm going to bend the bottom knee and bring the heel in towards the buttock and just use the toes to kind of walk that in a little bit. And then I'll bring the hand on the left side down to find that foot behind me and just help draw that in towards the buttock a little bit. So the leg that's I can see it out my peripheral vision, that's out to the right side of my mat, that's a straightish leg, and just letting it rest, foot on the floor. And again, I'm trying to keep the shoulders as flat to the ground as I can. So if they lift, they lift. Not the end of the world. We do want to try and keep this leg flat to in contact with the ground. And any movements that you make in the spine to adjust want to be very small and gradual. There's an opportunity to wriggle around, but we want to try and take care with. I can still move a little bit more. Get the shoulders a little closer to the ground. It's called the cat's tail. It's quite a big stretch. Start to slowly swing the top leg back. Bottom leg out. Roll the knees to the sky and the hips back into the ground. Till them back flat to the floor. Taking both arms out. A little wriggle around. And then shimmy as far to the right as comfortable. And then the legs come gently back down to the ground. Lengthen out the bottom leg. Start with just crossing the top leg over and then extending that out a little bit. Doesn't go 90 degrees to the body, it's kind of more 45 degrees out to the front. Shoulders as flat to the ground as I can manage. I'm going to bend the back foot in towards the buttock and that bottom leg. I just use the toes to walk the foot around as far as I can, and then take the hand down, see if I can find. That's quite a strong compression in the hamstring. The stretch is in the front of the thigh on that bottom leg, but it's not very often that we contract the hamstring to that degree. And although it feels like we're using the hand to help assist it in, it's not like the muscle is working, it's still moving into new territory. So the nervous system is a little bit frenzied about the whole idea of being in this position. We're trying to keep the hips gently stacked on top of each other. And shoulders rolling back as best we can. And again, because of the difference in the ribs, the difference in the hips from side to side, this could feel very much different proposition one side to the other. Last couple of breaths there. We'll release the hand from the foot. Lengthen that leg out. Swing the top leg in. Start to roll the hips back into the ground. And slowly back in. We'll take a breath from there. Again, let ourselves roll into whichever side feels more comfortable. And let ourselves lift from the floor. Bring ourselves into butterfly pose. So I'm just going to lengthen the legs out, give them a little bit of rub. And then just rock onto the front edge of the sitting bones. The soles of the feet to come together. But you'll notice that they're deliberately a long distance away. So looking down, this is kind of like a diamond shape for the hiccups. And then I'm going to let myself roll over the spine. So this evening, I'm just going to let that round down. I'm going to take the hands out towards the toes and kind of just gently hold them in position. And for me, I find bringing the elbows inside the legs comfortable. But if you feel it feels more natural for them to be on the outside, over the top of the shin, that's more than okay. We're actually trying to encourage the roundiness of the spine. So we're trying to let it be as round as possible, which means rounding through the top of the spine, which is relatively easy, and head drop. We're also trying to round sort of in the bottom of the spine towards the bottom of the rib cage, and then into that gap where you go from ribs to hips. So it's that bendy little bit that we're looking for as well. Particularly trying to force the breath in any way. We're trying to keep it as natural and soft and gentle as possible. Allow yourself to become aware of where the breath builds from. Where does it go to? How does it feel as it moves through your body? Lift ourselves back up out of that. And gradually take the hands around the legs. To lift them back out so they're straight. Now we're looking into a seated forward bend. And for some of us, the back of the knees are lifted away from the ground. And if that becomes a sore point for you, then just rolling a blanket or a towel up underneath the back of the legs, just to lift them out a little bit, to give them a bit of support. So you can take a little bend into the knees. We don't want them completely straight. And again, the feet, we're just letting them find a natural position. So for some of us, the legs will roll out, some will roll in, some will just point straight to the sky. I'm taking the hands onto the shins and I'm going to allow myself to roll down and see how that feels. Now, you may not get as deep as you did in the previous pose. The idea is that this kind of just looks after some different points of the spine, puts pressure into different discs. So the two marry together very well. Try to let those shoulders soften. You notice that I'm not reaching the hands forwards, I just let them kind of rest on my legs. And some people get their elbows all the way down to the ground. I suspect that will never happen in my body. And doing your best to let those legs relax as well. And also be confident enough to let the spine round and release the belly a little bit so you can breathe into that diaphragm. We'll get a little bit of an ebb and flow. Some full. Start to lift very slowly out of that. Cut the legs a little bit. I'm going to draw the heels in and roll up onto all fours. Again, kind of however you can get their opportunity. I'm also going to move the block to the side a little bit, so it's just off the edge of the mat. Allow myself to come into a nice neutral position with the spine. We're moving from yin to yang, so the alignment becomes a little more critical. So hands underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. I'm going to draw the chest forwards lightly, roll the shoulders back and encourage the tailbone to the sky as I draw the belly in. Start to exhale, I'm going to tilt the pelvis, allow the spine to ripple up towards the sky. Again, I'm going to start small. Allow myself to build into that bigger movements. Now, the phrasing of bigger movements is kind of in the beholder of the body that you're working in. So some of us are going to have a lot more range than others, just working within your comfort zone. Pressing down through the hands, feeling the back of the shoulders spread a little bit as we lift up. And we start to increase the complexity of this. So draw the chest forwards. That's going to remain constant. As the tailbone tucks under, I'm going to press into the hands, push myself gently back into child's pose. Open the head, my elbows come to the ground. Take a breath at the bottom and press into the shins to lift up. Allow the chest to draw forwards. So breathe in. Tucking the tailbone again under. Press into the hands and ease my way back. Feel a bigger stretch through the shoulders. A little bit of creaking and cracking through the knees. Feeling the thighs fire up a little bit as well. Drawing the belly in. Pressing back. Side coming back. And rounding this time just into a neutral position. Tucking the toes underneath. I'm going to lift the knees away from the floor into that down dog. Walking the legs out very gently. Just starting to open the stride of my down dog a little bit as well. I'm going to pedal the legs. For me, that feels good, but it's optional. Pedal and letting the hips and the shoulders rock around a little bit, feeling the body opening up. Take a last breath here and travel back into a plank. Allow the knees to come directly underneath the hips. I'm going to thread the needle. So take the right arm up towards the sky as I breathe in, opening the chest to the side and then flow that underneath and through. Barely going to touch my ear and head to the floor, and then press back up. Inhale up again. And exhaling down. So I'm not really taking the weight out of this bottom arm and the top arm and top shoulder. Long breath. Down round. Avoid trying to crash land my head against the ground. So I want to keep control of that as I descend down. And come back onto all fours. A little breath from there. Allow myself to move over to the opposite side. Float that round and down. So again, I'm going to come down for the last time and simply bring myself back onto all fours. Hands flat to the ground and tuck toes underneath and lift myself again into that down dog. And take a little breath from here and draw the right knee in towards the chest. Take the foot to the outside of the right hand. Allow yourself to lengthen out through the back heel. Let the hips drop a little bit, but keep the back knee off the ground. Try to keep that into a straight leg. Just going to take a few more breaths here. Try to keep the head in line, shoulders relax back. Just pressing into the floor lightly with the arms. Legs are really doing the lifting. Take it back into my down dog. Which might feel like a bit of a release. And take a breath from there. Draw that left knee in and take that foot to the outside. Try to keep the hips over the center line, the belly button over the center line of my mat. And lengthening out through that back leg and just letting the hips sink down low. So you want your hips to really be lining up with the bent knee at the front. in terms of that being about the same distance from the floor. I'm squeezing the thigh very lightly into the back of the arm as well. Take a breath there. Stepping back into my down dog. Stretch those legs up into that pose. Now draw the right knee in towards the chest again and bring the foot through the middle this time. And I'm going to let the back knee also come down to the floor. Onto the toes, just check the knee is over the ankle on this front leg. Bring the hands onto the front thigh, draw the belly in a little bit as you exhale, and encourage your tailbone down to the floor. Now find some balance through the hips, and then allow the hands to leave the thigh and come out to the side. We'll take them up towards the ceiling slowly. You'll hook the thumb, the palms facing forwards. Take a little side bend out towards the right as you exhale. We'll come back into the center, swap the hands over, take it out towards the left. Inhaling back again, and gently come down to the floor. Touch on the back foot, lift the knee and step myself gently back into that down dog. Draw the left knee in and through. And land the back knee gently, untucking the toes. Again, just have a little play, get the foot in the right place, the knee over the ankle, lift slowly. Wait till the hips feel like they've stopped rocking around underneath. You want them stable before you take the hands out to the side and we'll lift. Some thumbs, take it gently over to the left. Exhaling. Inhale back to the center. Cross the thumbs over the opposite way. Take it out towards the right. Into the center. Bring the hands down to the floor. Tap the toe on the back foot. Lift the knee and step back into that down dog. Now in the down dog, we'll bring the toes together. So they're touching on the center line, and we'll just float gently into a plank. So shoulders over wrists. Going to let both knees come down to the floor underneath the hips, but keeping those thighs together. I'm going to slide the left knee to the outside of the left wrist and keep the heel underneath the groin and walk the right foot back. Allow myself to just lengthen out a little bit. I'm going to press the big toe down into the ground so the foot is flexed a little bit, so toes towards me. I'm just going to lift that back knee a fraction off of the ground. Draw the belly in, roll the shoulders back, lift the spine up as high as I can out of the pelvis. We're going to hold that too long. We feel a little strange in that back leg. Might start to shake and tremble. And we'll let the knee come down. Let's start to move the hips away from the floor a little bit. And draw myself back onto all fours. Knees underneath the hips as best I can. So just walking ourselves into position. I'm going to take the right knee to the outside of the right wrist and bring the heel onto the center line of the mat, so just wriggling around a little bit. And then walking the left foot back using the big toe. And we're going to lift the shoulders a little. Keep the foot flexed so the big toe's tucked under a little. Lift the knee just a fraction from the floor. Try and press out through the heel. Let the hips be as low as they can. Belly drawn in, shoulders rolled back, and the chest lifting. So trying to get a sense of feeling the weight coming out of the wrists and the shoulders. And we'll let the back knee down onto the floor. And this time I'm going to take a slightly different way coming out of this. I'm going to roll my right cheek down to the floor, so off to the side. And then I'm just going to use the left hand to scoop the left leg forwards back into a perfect sitting position. I'm going to bring the bolster alongside the mat and stay in Dandasana for a moment. So I bring the hands alongside the body and lengthen the legs away, even though the toes are flexed towards me. I'm going to try and spread the toes out, see how wide I can get that spread. But whilst I'm doing that, I'm squeezing the thighs together a little bit as well. The chest is open, nice and broad, pressing the hands lightly to the floor. And I do appreciate that not everyone has got same sort of length arms and bodies. You know, we can have short arms, long arms, short bodies, long bodies, etc. So if you can't reach the floor, fingertips will do. If you need to bend your elbows, you can, not a problem. Just focus on the toes. And you're trying to get the big toe joint and the little toe joint to feel and look like they are the same distance from you. So if you pronate, i.e. your little toe kind of points forwards of the big toe when you sit down like this, because the thighs roll out. We're squeezing the thighs in. We're trying to adjust the position of the foot a little bit as well as we're drawing the belly in. We're almost there. I'm mesmerized by my own ability to stretch my toes further and further apart. And let ourselves release from there. So to release out of that, I'm going to take the hands underneath the back of the thighs. I'm going to come into Shavasana. I'll use the bolster under the back of the legs. Sip of water, first thing this evening. And then personal choice whether you put the block under the back of the head or not. I'm going to lie flat to the floor this evening. Now, again, coming into this, I'm just going to walk the bolster using the heels as close into my butt as I can, so the knees are high. I'm going to use the hands behind, the chin towards the chest. If you do know that you have problems with your back, maybe rolling it to the side and bring yourself back in, the easier way of doing it. Now I want the bolster to be close to my bottom, and allow the knees to roll out and the soles of the feet to come together. So rather than being sort of underneath the knee joint, I want them to be close to my bum. When the soles of the feet together and hopefully my legs feeling completely supported on the bolster, roll the spine completely down to the floor and lengthen the back of the neck. I'm going to bring my right hand onto the belly below the belly button, and my left hand on the belly just above. And relax the shoulders down and the elbows touching the floor. So if you come into this pose and it doesn't feel easy through the shoulders, chest and neck, because you're also having to hold your arms in position, then simply take the hands back out to the side, about the distance of a ruler from the side of the body where the palms face up. Let the shoulders really get a chance to roll underneath. Yourself to lick the lips. See if you can keep a soft jaw and a relaxed palate. Eyes gently closed. Just breathe easy, long, slow breaths. And exhale, be natural. By all means, you can stay here as long as you wish. If you want to join me in starting to move, allow yourself to wriggle your fingers and toes whilst your eyes stay shut. The wrists and the ankles to begin to move as we breathe a little deeper and get a little more connected with the body. And allow ourselves to have a stretch out, whatever that looks like. Slide the heels back in towards your body and lift your feet over the bolsters gently, letting the knees come in towards you. Give yourself the gentlest of hugs, squeezes, whatever feels right. And then allow yourself to roll the legs gently over towards that right side. Use the hands to press into the floor and lift slowly back up. So moving your bolsters and props out of the way as you bring yourself back into a seated posture. Sit tall. Allow yourself to customize back to the world and the universe. And bring your hands in towards your heart. Long breath in as you close the eyes. Chin to chest, and begin to exhale, letting the belly sink in towards the spine and bowing carefully to the floor. You see our practice for the evening. Gratitude. Inhale from the spine back up. The breath, letting the head lift, the eyes open. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Hope you enjoyed. And see you on the mat again soon.